Now a few days removed from Super Bowl 59, I can pretty confidently say I feel completely better. I think we all feel completely better. Nate, just a quick little vibe check. How you feeling? You feeling good? Feeling better? Feeling calm and collected?
I feel better. I had a
That's great. Thanks, Nate. That's great. Thanks. Go
yeah
ahead,
yeah.
Seth. How do you feel better? Seth, how are you feeling this bright and sunny Thursday?
You know what?
Shut up! Who cares? Start the show!
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Sorry. I thought maybe. And then I said it, and then it wasn't better. Welcome to Only Weird Games, KC Sports Network, Joshua Brisco, Seth Keysor, Nate Taylor. We're here. It's Thursday. We're going to talk about other things that we didn't get to on Tuesday. We're going to get to the sadness of the locker room. We're going to get to the sadness of a few things that broke down in the Chiefs' offense. We're going to get to the sadness of a pending offseason. We may or may not get to the sadness of the general concept of terror and what words mean. We have a lot of ground that we can cover. And fellas, I mean, St. Joe is just around the corner. We've only got like 6 months to really buckle down and fix this football team. So that's pretty exciting.
If they don't make a lot of major moves, they might not make it back to the Super Bowl. And Josh, you have every right to be bothered and annoyed and upset, and I'm going to join you on that journey.
I don't want you
with
me.
I don't care.
I don't care either.
You've known me a long time.
I don't need your permission to be angry.
Yeah, I know. But when have I ever asked your permission to join you anywhere?
When have I? Never. You've been on my bidet without my permission.
Exactly. Boy, I wish that was a euphemism. But, I would just, something to remind Chiefs fans, they got closer to a three-peat than any team in NFL history. It's a bummer. Definitely got blown up in a way that exposed some issues that I think we were all aware of all season. Some of us wrote about them a couple different times. And there's definitely stuff to talk about in terms of what's execution, what's play calling, because it becomes so easy to become very binary with this stuff, right? Like it's like when I talk about how I don't think Andy Reid unlocked the offense in a way that was best against Fangio's defense, and he wasn't quick enough to adjust, etc. What some people hear is it's all Andy Reid. But it's not. If I talk about how Mahomes fairly quickly started to get jumpy and his whole process was shot and he missed some of the chances that he did have, people immediately jumped to, no, it was Mahomes. It's almost never one thing. I will say, so like I had someone mention to me the AFC Championship game, the 2021 AFC Championship game. That game afterwards, a lot of people wanted to talk about Reid. They wanted to talk about, the offensive coordinator. They wanted to talk about this, that, and the other thing. My stance on that was and remains, that was like 99.9% execution. That was basically all just players failing. Here, we've got a little more of a mix, which kind of has to happen. It's like they played 2 straight halves of the second half of the 2021 AFC Championship game. So you're going to have a lot of things go wrong. But I just want you to know, Josh, other than the moments I'm joining you in your anger, whether you like it or not, I will also be here to tell Chiefs fans, we're not at just because there's things that need fixing. And there were things that needed fixing after the 2023 season and the 2022 season. But that doesn't mean my God, they need to blow it all up. No. Let's hang on. Baby, bathwater. Protect
Throw
the
it
baby.
all out. Get it all out of here. I don't want to see it. You know what happened to that baby in the bathwater Super Bowl 59? It lost. Get it all out.
Stupid baby. That reminds me of one of my favorite exchanges in Better Off Ted. You can't hurt a baby. Well, you can. They're not indestructible. But it's morally indefensible. Even if it was like a baby Hitler. You and your moral quandaries. I love them. Better Off Ted. Watch it now. Thank me later. It's only 2 seasons. Criminal that it didn't last longer.
And while we're here, I'll go ahead and say I would throw baby Hitler out with the bathwater.
That seems like a fair decision. That's not I don't think there's a lot of people that are out here but it's still just one of my favorite lines.
Seth,
you can't hurt a baby.
I disagree, Seth, actually.
If we had a time machine, we could go back.
I don't know, dude. I'm not doing this with
Seth,
you today.
if you had a time machine, Seth, if you had a time machine, would you go back in time and kill baby Vic Fangio?
That seems on the basis of a game.
Would you kill baby Howie Roseman?
Dang, baby Howie Roseman would talk me not into doing it.
So true. He
I would
trade
come
you
back
15 more years in time.
Well, we
Yeah,
push
I
the
ended
money. We'll sign you to a great deal, but we'll push the money back, and we're
I
gonna
ended
get
up giving
Saquon
him
Barkley.
my house. I don't know how. Which that is one thing, by the way. The Howie Roseman magic. Some of it is his owners willing to cut big old checks and push money down the road, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's what the Saints. That's what the Saints did," and it caught up with them. Yeah, after a decade. Oh no, 10 years of getting to spend borderline irresponsibly. Well, they're going to be in salary cap hell one year.
To be fair,
10's a lot bigger than 1. But we can have that conversation this offseason.
I just want to make it clear: the Saints have not given out the same contracts that the Eagles have. Okay, I want to make that clear. They are not giving money to Taysom Hill.
And well, no, Sean Payton's going to do that now that he's in. Yeah, but no, I'm just letting people know I'm here to talk about what went wrong. I wrote about it, and then you know what we get to do? We get to think about maybe some of the fonder memories of this season because there were some good times. I'm going to write my most fun moments article again. I'm going to have to do a few film reviews to kind of talk about who needs what. I will let people know I'm not going to do an 8-game Trace Smith film review. The reason being, he's a known quantity. He's real good. Someone's going to offer him $20+ million a year. That is going to happen. Probably, honestly, like if I were the Vikings, I'd be like, hey, you know where you'd fit him well. But anyway, I am here to provide a little bit of optimism, a little bit of let's move on. Because well, you know what we get to do? We get to play with the roster again. It's the most fun time in Madden before they ruined franchise mode. Maybe they fixed that in the last few years, but I bought like Madden 21 or something like that. And I was like, you guys ruined it. Anyway, Josh?
So Trey Smith, Minnesota, franchise tag, Trey Smith, Andy Reid, Kevin O'Connell, straight up. Who says no?
Come on, man. What are you doing? Clark Hunt says no.
Okay.
Hunt.
Okay, hold on. Trey Smith, Andy Reid, Clark Hunt for Kevin O'Connell, and I can't remember the name of the Vikings owner right now.
You know, football is such an interesting
I'm just trying
sport.
to bring some solutions. I feel like right now a lot of people are complaining, and I'm trying to bring solutions to the
I
table.
appreciate
I
it.
want to see this team three-peat next year, okay? So I'm trying to bring some solutions.
Can I give you a? Can I give you a
very difficult to win 3 Super Bowls in one season.
Can I give you a flow chart?
First of all, through God, all things are possible. So write that down.
Let me give you the flow chart.
Let's trade Trey Smith and God. That's got to get you a good haul. Hold on.
Are they part of the core 9? If no, get rid of them.
So Mark Donovan.
Wow.
Oh, nope, damn, you can't have Donovan.
Let me just tell you what happens if let me get one out of the way. An easy one for Chiefs fans, and I know we're a little all over the map, but let's face it, so were the Chiefs on Sunday. The reality of Juwan Taylor, Chiefs fans, absolutely uncuttable. You actually pay him against the salary
cap. You want me to tell you the numbers? Because I looked them up today, kids.
Yes.
Shocking.
Nathaniel can tell you the exact numbers if you want. But what I'll tell you is he's more expensive against the cap to play than he is to trade or to cut. And here's the thing. Juwan Taylor was the 3rd worst offensive lineman in the Super Bowl. Like, he wasn't. And now, him having guys run through his chest, that was a problem. You got to have him take more aggressive sets. I don't know why he didn't. But he played pretty well this year. I know the penalties stink. They bother me. He's the contract they've gotten, it's not been worth it. But he's not the problem that needs solving right this second. That is not. You got to solve the real problems.
Who's got the 3rd highest cap hit on the team next year?
I think that is Juwan Taylor.
Yep.
You can cut him and make it the 2nd biggest cap hit. I'm just gonna say, I know this really fluctuates depending on just who you feel good feelings for.
$34 million to cut this man. 34.7 to cut him. That's pre-June, of course. Post-June, it gets a little easier. $27 million.
It's not feasible.
You pay the rest of that the next year, by the way.
Right.
And it's also not one of the problem child issues on the roster. And then after 2025, that contract becomes much more tenable for a number of reasons. including the dead money going way down.
Saints would do it.
The Saints would do it. Pass, Lou. Thank you. The Saints would do it. They really would. But the reality is that's he's not going anywhere. So let's clear our mind of that. I personally think you're not going to see Trey Smith in a Chiefs uniform next year. I think you're going to see probably. Well, you know what? I don't know yet. I don't know what they're going to do.
Go ahead and say it.
I just don't know. I don't know. I need to review Week 18's film. I got to review Week 18's film.
It's
got to go to the film. I'm terrified of misusing my power to review film.
The coaching staff has already reviewed it. The front office has already reviewed it. Just go ahead and say it.
What are you talking about? Week 18? You about to tell me Hunter Norzad's about to be better than Trey Smith? I love it. Great take, Seth.
Well, they're going to move Hunter Norzad to left tackle next year.
Perfect. What if they move? Here's a solution. Move Jawan Taylor to left tackle.
Now that was
that's just crazy.
When that was a thought process when they signed him to, you could argue at the time, a left tackle contract.
Wanya Morris plays right tackle. All right, we're cooking with gas, everybody. Kingsley's playing right guard. Hell yeah.
I love Nate Dogg in the comments. Ethan Driscoll slander. You know what? If we are going off of imposing get off the bus humans,
give me one more
let's get that dude off the bus and say, hello, I am enormous and I am your left tackle. They're going to actually change his name. First name E, last name Normus. And that dude will be your left tackle. Sure, fair enough. I'm sorry. I dragged this here. This is my fault. This is on me. I just hate seeing you like this, Josh. And so I try to cheer you up. And normally me acting like a doof or me getting dunked on cheers you up. And I didn't feel like getting dunked on. It's been a hard week.
Yeah, I would have definitely gotten more joy out of the latter, but that's okay. You know what's really going to warm me up?
Sure.
We didn't actually do this on Tuesday because I don't think that there was quite enough time for story time amidst the 3 simultaneous or like 50 simultaneous therapy sessions that were happening. But I do want to make our last couple of looks back over our shoulder as we turn into a pillar of salt at the Super Bowl and what exactly happened there. We'll get into the scope of the specifics that Seth looked at. But Nate, I never asked you the question that I usually ask you in a postgame episode, which is just, what did you get from the locker room? In this instance, I have a pretty good feel, but I'm curious about where you how you experienced the Super Bowl postgame.
So the Super Bowl postgame is unlike any other postgame because the locker room is available, but prominent players like Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, Trent McDuffie, DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy, they go into a separate room, like a mix zone that you would normally see at the Olympics while the rest of the locker room is still open. So I had the belief that Travis Kelce was not going to go into the mixed room. He did not. We got 2 minutes of Travis Kelce, and I think we both made eye contact, and I'm pretty sure he knew I was going to say, you plan on coming back next season? But I couldn't get it out there, and he did an about face, and then the security guard said, we're done here. And, that's as difficult and as somber of a locker room as I can remember. To give you context, ladies and gentlemen, in 2018, when they lost in the AFC Championship to the Patriots, that was a lot of anger and disappointment because, of course, they were 1 game away from going to the Super Bowl. 2021 is in a COVID environment, so that was handled via Zoom. Same with 2020. Both of those were Zoom press conferences, and I will always remember Andrew Wiley feeling like he could never play football again. That's how bad it was in Tampa Bay. I remember in 2021, Tyrann Mathieu essentially crying because he knew that was it. He was not coming back. He was gonna try throughout the course of the offseason, and I chronicled it as much as I could, but I think deep down he and Travarius Ward knew they weren't coming back. But there was a lot of anger because, as you can imagine, they were up 21-3. Ladies and gentlemen, there was no anger on Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, it was cataclysmic in terms of body language, guys understanding that they are contractually obligated to talk, but Joe Tooney's got, his eyes watery. Mike Caliendo could barely look at me. Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy had a lengthy conversation in the locker room, and that was, interesting to see because I think they both want to remain teammates.
Hey, you were open sometimes. I was open sometimes too. So we were both open sometimes. Interesting. That's likely a paraphrase. I'm not quoting them directly.
Trey Smith started talking, and I think it almost did something to him psychologically, which I cannot do this. He almost knew he was going to say something that maybe he didn't want to say in the moment because of the rawness of the loss. So he stopped. Yeah. He stopped taking questions. He just said, I can't do it right now. I'm really sorry. And I think
did you tell him to shut up and suck it up and answer your question, Nate?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I am too professional.
It's probably the right call.
Yeah, it's probably the right call.
Among other reasons.
Yeah. And then lastly, kids, I think the most notable thing we got out of the locker room was Leo Chenal. And he's been a theme involved in these locker room stories kind of all season. And Leo Chenal was the one who explained the emotional letdown that Patrick Mahomes shared to his teammates during halftime. Now, guys, I don't know if this has happened before. Clearly, I'm not in the locker room during halftime, but I can never, ever remember Patrick Mahomes apologizing to his teammates at halftime in a way that was, it was just another example of how different that game was compared to any other game this season. And so I'm going to find it real quick just so I can, quote him directly. But it's hey, you get, as I said in the last episode, you get 29 minutes to talk, to do something, to think about something hey, are we going to make up a lineup change? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Should we, change the protection plan? Should we try to change our passing concepts? God knows what, right? So Leo Chenal said, quote, this is Leo about Patrick, quote, he expressed that he wasn't playing his best. The guys all around him were quote, we need to do better for you too, Patrick. He takes accountability no matter what. He was passionate. You could tell in his voice. He's a competitor, and it really hurt him the way he felt he was playing. And then Leo couldn't talk anymore. And then I asked Leo, I have the responsibility to remind Leo this is the first postseason game he's ever lost in his career, ever. And then he broke down, and he couldn't this is an awful experience that they all went through together. And they've showed it time to time. And if you watch NFL films enough, if you watch Hard Knocks, the daps and the hugs that end the season. Now add the embarrassment, the sorrow, and the exhaustion of getting to the Super Bowl and having that level of performance. It was rough, kids. It was real rough. I wrote the scene in the story as well that the first person to enter the locker room with the game still going on was Clark Hunt by himself, alone. And
looking around thinking, man, these locker rooms are too nice.
And so those are our locker room tales. Leo Chenal explaining to us that Pat gave a passionate speech that was not what you expect at halftime of the Super Bowl.
I mean, also, depending on the exact moment when he was delivering that, literally may have had the muffled backdrop of TV off or something, just bouncing in the background in the way that you can only ever hear it through the bowels of a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that there were a whole lot of team cameras rolling then, and I really couldn't imagine we would ever see if there was a single snippet of video. But man, that has to feel like a halftime. That has to feel like a halftime speech from a zombie movie, where it's just like it has to be so thoroughly post-apocalyptic in that moment. And they came out and played like like the apocalypse was still actively ongoing. Again, if you want to get more details and read through all of that, go read Nate's post-game stuff over in The Athletic. I just realized we didn't ever stretch our legs and hear from you directly on all of that.
It's all right.
Tuesday.
No, I mean, we did our job on Tuesday. We did our job. And, I took a video, and this tells you, like, they had one shot. They had a once-in-a-lifetime shot. And as they're walking, I got video of this. I think you can see it on X or whatever. But, like, as they're walking to the locker room, like, Brett Veach is there, and it's Mike Pennell who says, like, please come here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then they hug. And that's it, probably. Who knows if Mike Pennell comes back next season? And so it's just a lot of like, I have to do this now. When they thought entering the stadium that they were going to be immortal in a way that no other football team was or has been.
I think that's a good bow to put on it. And Seth, let's just go ahead and swing that straight into some of the X's and O's or some of the specifics. When you looked at the offense a little bit closer, some of the stuff we talked about on Tuesday, I'll leave it to you to decide how much of it you want to dig into more. We talked quite a bit about pass protection and the plan and all of that on Tuesday, but I don't know how much else you learned in the last couple of days. But when you went back, you written about it already, Chief of the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com, or I'll give you this little free PSA here. You go to bit.ly/SethReallyHatesMoney, and you can sign up for $12 a year. I'll tell you what, it's always a good time to give Seth virtually no money to read his work. But the offseason, we'll get to draft territory, free agency. We'll get Seth's big free agent plan. If I was Brett Veach and all of that, it's a really good time to let Seth do the heavy lifting of the NFL offseason for you. So you can read along there in the Substack. So Seth, now do some of the heavy lifting for me. What did you learn?
It's worth noting, and I actually just tweeted out some good work by Brett. I never say his last name correct. Tavo.
I'm not sure if I know who that is.
He works with the fellows at the Star in terms of breaking down some of the X's and O's of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really? He's got a great video online about some of the stuff that Chiefs tried to do to provide some easy answers for Mahomes. So I tweeted that out to note to people. It's not like the coaching staff didn't try to do anything.
Right.
And it's also worth noting the Eagles played an incredible game.
You pronounced his last name so wrong that I thought the new person worked for the Star. We're good. Shout out to Brett. I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard it said out loud, but I just went. I also just realized, Seth, I'm sorry. Now I've interrupted you to correct my own ignorance, but I heard you say, yeah, Brett Tava something. And I went, with the Star, how do I not know who that is? And I went and I saw like, oh no, I've definitely seen his work before. It is good. I didn't want to sound like I had just steamrolled over somebody who I do actually know of. Don't know personally though, or well enough to pronounce his last name.
We appreciate and respect.
Yes, absolutely. Despite the fact that none of the three of us have ever pronounced one person's name correctly simultaneously. So that's gonna DM one of us and let us know.
So he notes some of the things they tried to do early on to give Pat some easy answers, that some execution stuff torpedoed to an extent, or like Cooper DeJean just making a great tackle of Xavier Worthy in the open field.
Example B. Go ahead.
What?
No, let it go. Let it go. Just keep going.
Cooper DeJean. Go ahead. You can call him whatever you want. That's okay.
Sure, why not?
Cooper Mustard.
Yeah, sure. So he made a good tackle of Xavier Worthy in the open field in one of the looks that they've gotten multiple yards out of multiple times. One problem I would have with that is, okay, see if he can do it twice. But they didn't.
Nope.
They didn't try to see if he could do it twice. And part of it, when things are going so disastrously poorly, that's one thing the turnovers do. They shorten drives. They take away your opportunities to break anything down. There's a lot to it. One of the reasons I'm sure Pat apologized is he knew, his pick 6 was like a devastating moment in that game. And then the pick to Bond, that wasn't his fault though. Right? And what's he going to do? Hey guys, sorry, Joe screwed that up. Like, he's not going to do that, because that probably gets completed for like a 10, 11 yard gain. Now you're moving a little bit. You just forced a punt. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. We've been here before. Some of it is just the Eagles played really well. One of the things I wrote about in the Chief of the North newsletter on talking about some flaws that I think were there all year, but kind of got glossed over a little bit, not by us, because we talked about them a lot, but because they kept winning. It's kind of like, well, no, I think they'll be able to overcome it. One of the things I pointed out is the Honest NFL Twitter account, which could not recommend it more highly if you want to look at X's and O's. However, I will say it's not 101 stuff or 201 stuff.
No.
It's like
no.
Go in excited about the fact that it will make you feel stupid. Because when I see something from that makes me feel stupid, I go, wow, I thought I was doing okay. And now it's time to learn about whatever this is.
Hey kids, I was looking back at some, I have some access to some information, and I look back and I go, if this is what they were doing in 2016, my God, the things the quarterback has to do now compared to then.
And it's insane. So he wrote a little bit about one of the keys to the Eagles' defensive success. They used, I want to make sure that I'm saying this correctly. They basically utilized a certain form of coverage without getting into the details. They added an extra defender to not the strong side, but of where the side of the field where the Chiefs lined up 3 receivers or even 4 receivers. They were able to bring 5 guys to that area. And because of that, they left the backside more vulnerable. There's way more to it than that, okay? Way more. But
it's not a one-on-one.
That's the summary. And it doesn't seem like they were afraid to do that. And it doesn't seem like the Chiefs were necessarily ready for that. Some of their usual zone beating stuff wasn't working, and it wasn't working early. That's all true. I would argue that that's predictable. And so you got to figure what are some of the other things you're going to do. I've gone through and counted how many RPOs. And kidding, I haven't, because I don't see like any. And they went away from that really quickly. First play of the game.
Yeah, after the first play, correct.
And that was a really slick setup. Show them, run the exact same freaking thing to the other side, dressed up differently. One thing Andy Reid is incredible at is running the same concept 9 times in a game, dressed up differently, when he realizes you can't defend it. The Eagles didn't have the bodies for that. And then they just went away from it. And that drove me batty. But the biggest thing, it does come back to the protection plan. I know we talked about it a lot, but here's like to go into a little more detail. It really is. There's execution stuff. It's on Mahomes. It's on Tooney. It's on Caliendo. It's on Taylor. It's on Kelce. It's on basically everyone but Xavier Worthy. Hollywood Brown, he should have come back stronger for a ball that was up there that he could have powered forward and caught. But instead he waited for it to come to him, but that's not really his game. Whatever. There were execution failures. There were coaching failures. That's how you end up with such a poor performance. But one thing, like to me, it's the preventable stuff, right? I don't know if they beat that iteration of the Eagles team with this iteration of the Chiefs offense. I don't know that they do. It's a really bad matchup for them. Similar to Houston's defense being a really bad matchup for the Chiefs. That type of edge rusher, and the difference between Houston's defense and Philly's defense is Houston couldn't crush the pocket quite as much. So Mahomes had some space to flee into an A gap, to try to move around a little bit. And the Eagles did a great job against that. Just excellent job. So I don't know if there's anything they could have done. But there's 3 things that we knew going into this game when it comes to the offensive line. We know that Caliendo struggles in pass protection. We know that Tooney has struggled with length-based and power-based edge rushers. And the third thing is that we know, and the Chiefs knew this, the Eagles knew this, that the Chiefs have had to repeatedly compensate for those 2 problems by altering their offense in order to get the ball out very quickly and only take shots down the field on designated shot plays. In other words, you can run variations of, quarters at will. And quarters is not this like all-encompassing, you can't throw the ball deep on quarters. Watch the Rams play sometime. You can. It's just if you only test them deep on some of those crossers, on some of those downfield routes designed to split it or go to the middle of the field, you're probably not going to do it because they'll recognize the shot play coming because you're only taking shots with certain designs. But that's what they felt like they had to do because they had to get the ball out really quickly. Their 3 best offensive performances of the season from a schematic standpoint: Houston, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Not the playoff Houston game. They had to get rid of the ball incredibly quickly. That narrows your ability to succeed. And when you have narrowed your options, you've made your life harder. They knew these 3 things. And that's where, to me, this game, I understand the personal reasons why. I understand, probably Mahomes wanted Joe Thuney at left tackle. I get all that. To me, after like the second drive of this game, you walk up to Joe and you say, dude, I don't think you can block that guy, not from edge, especially with us making you take vertical steps every other second. And Joe
Thuney's probably the last guy in the stadium that needed to hear that from someone else. He was the first one to realize.
Yeah, he knew. That guy knew the first time Josh Sweat just walked him backwards. He's just like, okay, there's nothing I can do here. And he did the best he could. But again, 32-inch arms, almost 35-inch arms, 300-pound tackle at a position that's normally 310, 315, 320.
Yep.
So you could have, one of the arguments people had for the way the Chiefs went about doing things is you're trying to protect the floor of the offense. You knew after that first drive, in my opinion, what the floor was. You saw it. It's like, oh crap, the floor at left tackle is a real low. Okay, Joe, get inside. DJ, get out there. See what you can do. All we need you to do, if you're going to lose, only lose every 5th snap. That's an incredibly high rate, but it's better than every 2nd snap. And they would have lost in different ways too. Humphreys, really high upper body strength, really long arms. That's built for a power-based rusher. This was an avoidable thing. So that's one thing that was avoidable. Now, that's an oversimplification. There's a lot of other things going on. But that's one flaw that the Chiefs had all season at left tackle. The fact they made it as far as they did is a testament to Mahomes, to Reed, to what they were able to build around the offense, especially with this version of Travis Kelce. But it still felt like an avoidable mistake heading into the Super Bowl. They had the tape from Houston or from Cleveland. They had to have known this was a possibility. The other thing is the problem of weaponry. Travis Kelce, and I don't know if we want to skip to the third thing here or whatever. Travis Kelce.
We're not skipping anywhere, Seth. We're more than 30 minutes in. The next thing's going to be me throwing to a break. We're not skipping to anything.
Right. The problem of weaponry caught up with them. Xavier Worthy is a guy you can build an offense around. His usage was weird in the Super Bowl because when they were running him deep, which I think we would have all, with a little better protection and Mahomes having his head screwed on straight after getting walloped multiple times, there's a world where Worthy has that exact same stat line, except a lot of it happened earlier.
Yeah.
And we're all like, oh, they waited to the most important game to unleash him because they were trying to, and he was doing work against their starters, not just late in the game.
Right.
It didn't match up with the blocking scheme, didn't match up with Mahomes getting happy feet once he'd been knocked around. Brown got open a few times too in a way that looks functional. We'll see what he looks for in free agency. My hope is that he comes back on another prove it because he's still a young guy and can get like that big contract if he does something well. But beyond them, they're just so slow. They're so slow. And I know it's beyond 2 really fast receivers, they're so slow. A lot of teams still have some moderately fast guys. And they just don't have that.
They just to remind people, they had DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, and Juju Smith-Schuster playing the majority of those snaps, in addition to Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. Sprinkle in, obviously, a little bit of Justin Watson.
Right.
The other
Who's fast down the field, but he's a slow burn.
Yeah. The thing that I thought Fangio did well is it's quarters, but it's quarters designed to not give Travis Kelce a 2-way go.
Yep.
And so eyes are on him constantly when we're getting pressure. So it's not like he can use one defender to set up a bigger passing lane in a zone or to use that defender's, body, their alignment to create even bigger advantages in like one-on-one opportunities. So if you're using quarters and you're testing everything relatively short for Kelce reasons, the question that I think will haunt them to some degree, and this is to your point, Seth, hey, that quick throw to Xavier Worthy early to the flats. They did not throw another ball to the flats.
Yep.
So, you could have layered concepts where obviously you have somebody going deep, intermediate, flat area, and just see what the cornerback does, not necessarily in conflict, but just to see what their rules are. Those are two things that I would add as well. Is that the fact that they didn't give Kelce a two-way go, they didn't have protection to hold up for Hollywood or for Xavier. When you did get into those one-on-one matchups, it's not like DeAndre Hopkins is creating a ton of separation.
Right.
And you're not throwing the football to, say, Isaiah Pacheco in the flat to, like, try to take advantage of his speed against zone-based coverages that are not blitzing as well. I think by Fangio not blitzing, he actually took away one of Patrick's superpowers, which is that guy's blitzing. And now I'm telling the offensive line, I'm telling my receivers, everybody knows what to do now. I'll make some check, and now I'll get the ball out quickly, on time, because you surrendered a defender when I've already sort of solved the puzzle. With them not blitzing, it took away one of his special abilities, which is this 22's coming. And if I know he's coming based on my film study, all right, guys, we know what to do now, or Kelce knows what to do, because there should be a void or an opening somewhere based off where that guy's coming. When there's 7 people and there's 7 people back, and 2 of them are designed to Kelce, and you're getting pressure, whoo, buddy. You get bad results.
And that's the thing when your offense is designed around a player that can't quite execute that same stuff anymore. Travis Kelce is still a very, very, very good player, but he can be schemed out of games now, and that's a difference. That's a big difference. And one of the things that was preventable and avoidable was game planning as though he can be the focal point of your offense. I think they would have been better off spending 2 weeks saying, man, I think they're going to do a lot of this. We're going to start hucking that ball up. Hollywood, Xavier, we're going to plan this around you guys and see if we can just loosen that up.
Nate said that's what they did. And then I played left tackle.
And they
Andy Reid did not bench me at any point.
But that's where the protection plan and the plan for Worthy just didn't go the way it should have. It just wasn't mixed up. I would say the final thing, and this is a 2-year thing now, the best Patrick Mahomes has ever played was 2022.
God. Yep.
And he was unbelievable that year, the best I've ever seen him. And like you've seen a ton of glimpses of that, not just glimpses, long looks at that over the last 2 years. Just last year's Super Bowl, I mean, he was basically flawless down the stretch. Unbelievable. I will say, the way I described it was Patrick Mahomes melting within the system.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of reliance on the system that I think they need to toy with. Doesn't mean you want Mahomes playing like he did in 2018 or 2019 for parts of 2019. But unleashing him a little bit more and letting him get back to not being so process-oriented, I think would be a good thing. And look, these are really easy things for me to say sitting here. But that is something to look at, because you have to ask yourself, why for 2 years in a row has our best the league has ever seen quarterback not been quite as good? And there are other factors, the wide receiver stuff last year, the left tackle stuff this year, all that matters for sure. But your quarterback has also been more of a contributing factor the last 2 years than he was like the previous 4. So it's just something to think about there. And I have no doubt they're going to try to figure out a way to revamp the offense around Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, and that should be fun to watch.
All right, on the other side of this timeout, Seth will explain why he is personally rooting for Travis Kelce to retire sooner rather than later. That's next.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
Last offseason, Seth said that Travis Kelce didn't love football anymore. This offseason, Seth says football doesn't love Travis Kelce anymore. You can hear it in the New Heights podcast. He did, of course, talk a little bit about what might be next over there chatting with his brother Jason. It's absolutely unfathomable to me that you'd be listening to this show and not know about Jason Kelce and New Heights. I don't know why I felt the need to do that setup. But super short version of this was he acknowledged if you know that there is a question about if he'll play again next year. He said as he's kicking the can down the road, not making any crazy decisions right now. Also acknowledged it's a lot of wear and tear on his body. A lot of effort goes into not just playing these full seasons, but playing these seasons to the point of the Super Bowl more often than not, and acknowledge that he's not the same guy that he's been in the past, which I can't remember if this nugget was on the show or after the show yesterday, but I'm going to make it on the show today, and I'm going to attribute it to Seth, and Seth's going to go, oh God, do I want this on the show? It's okay, Seth, this is a fine one. When you were talking about Kelce in terms of the usage and also the type of receivers the Chiefs need to look for, I think where we settled was Travis Kelce was one of the 2 best tight ends in the AFC last year, behind only Brock Bowers. But he's been the Chiefs' ex-receiver throughout the last decade, more or less. Right. Not quite the whole decade, I guess. And he really can't be that guy anymore. If you talk about him as a tight end, I feel like there's still a lot for him to do. But none of that's really the crux of where we are now, because it's not up to the 3 of us if Travis Kelce plays again or not. It's up to him. Nate, what do you think? What did you think about the New Heights comments? Where do you think he stands now? I don't know if you have any level of confidence one way or another. The floor is yours. What's next for Travis Kelce?
So here's what's next, kids. First, he sounded exhausted. He sounded really, really tired. And again, this goes back to what I've been trying to explain to people, to explain to you guys all year. It's just like this is the burden that he could finally open up about in a way that he wasn't going to do during the season because he's that much of an important veteran presence to the team. The burden is pretty heavy on him, just as much as it is almost on Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, which again, no other tight end in the league has to do these type of things, but he's so great and so vital to their success that now he enters a stage where is he going to be comfortable doing this one more time? Kind of to what you're saying, Josh, knowing he might have less of an actual impact in winning and losing than he has ever had before. And that has to be devastating because I could tell Travis Kelce, not everybody can do what the Eagles can do. And that's true. But his body might not be the same, or what it's capable of might not be the same on a given day because you get older and this is what happens and you take hits and you try to manage everything. I just know that, is he ready for another grueling season? That's his question. And then, of course, based on the timing, Aaron Donald went through this, ladies and gentlemen. Aaron Rodgers is going through this right now. Tom Brady went through this in a not so great manner. You don't get that much time. You think you'll get a lot of time to really consider your options. But when you get this far, everybody else has already been in the offseason. You're going to be 36. The new league year starts on March 10th. Your contract stipulates to where, hey, man, we can give you a month. But we kind of got to get a real indication. He loves football. He loves his teammates. The Chiefs are going to try, I think, very hard in probably 10 days' time to convince him that next season will be different for him. Problem is, quarterback shoulder blew out Rashee Rice's right knee. And the problem is, what if something goes wrong with the offense? And guess what? can you carry us again? Can you please lead us in receiving again? He's in a difficult spot.
This is just an interesting thing. The first 3 games of the season, Kelce had 4 targets, 3 targets, and 5 targets. In the first quarter of the game against the Chargers, Rashee Rice got his knee blown out. And from there on, averaged somewhere between, he had 16 targets against Tampa.
Yep, for 100 yards.
Yeah, like just grinding it out. I mean, 9, 10, 5. But that was a comfortable win against San Fran. 12, 16, 12, 4 against Buffalo when Buffalo was like throwing the kitchen sink at him.
Yeah,
And his snap count was still up.
He cannot do this again. He
8,
cannot.
13.
He knows this.
Yeah, it's not feasible. It's just not feasible for the offense to focus around him. So they'll tell him, hey, because Xavier Worthy was going to get, 150 targets this year? 160, or not Xavier, Rashee Rice.
Rashee Rice, yeah.
He was going to get 150 targets this year, probably, give or take.
Hollywood Brown was probably going to get 80 something, right? I mean,
and that might be the thing, if Brown talks to them, says, hey guys, I'll do one more 1-year prove it deal with you guys. Thanks for the 10 mil last year. I was hurt most of the year. I'll do it for X amount. I think the Bills are supposedly going to pursue him. We'll see what happens. But you do that and you tell them, hey, now we know what Worthy can do. He can do some of that short stuff. We know what Rashee can do. He can do some of that stuff. And Hollywood Brown can do some of that stuff. He can be that isolated guy on the backside a little bit more. Maybe Rashee can be that guy. You don't have to do everything. You need 80 targets. Go watch film of Antonio Gates last 5 years in the league. That could be you. I don't know. I don't know if I would do that if I were him.
It's a lot.
He loves football, and Kelce clearly loves football, clearly loves being part of a team, clearly loves to push for greatness, all that stuff. He also, more than any player other than Brady in the history of the league, has more outside of football than he currently has in football.
Not more football, though.
Yes. And it is. I appreciate that you pointed that out, Nate, though, that he's not going to have as much time as he'd probably like. One of the things that I thought was really interesting in the Kelce documentary was them doing segments in Philadelphia radio where they were starting thanks for everything, Kelce. But I mean, come on, man, come on. That's just how fast people turn on you. That's just how it is. Come on, make up your mind. What are you going to do? You're holding the team hostage. That'll start real quick.
Which I would tell people, don't do that. Just don't. He has a whole month to figure this out. Clark Hunt is going to give him a whole month. Now, once you go past that month, I don't know. They would have to figure some things out based on the contract that he currently has right now, because that essentially locks him into the season. But again, they have a month to figure this all out. And if we get past this month, you cannot. It's hard to understand that, yes, there's a draft. Yes, there's a free agency. He's been with Andy Reid the longest out of anybody in the organization that plays football.
Yep.
So what is fascinating to me is Andy Reid's going to have a large part of this too, about communicating with him throughout this next month. I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated how the exit interview went. Obviously he's basically been a coach on the field alongside Patrick to a degree. What do you really want? He wants to play football, but can you feasibly do that and not have things go worse? And so this is going to be really, really hard for him. I cannot stress that enough. So if you get to the point where you're like, well, he's holding the team hostage. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that, but do you know how hard it is to walk away when you know you can still play? But is that the right thing to do?
And it's also, people do need to remember, this is a weird kind of job.
Oh,
Any job that you left after 12 years would be tough. Any job that you leave after 12 years where you're still capable of doing it at a higher level than most would be tough. Now imagine that job is make it more encompassing, not just about the Chiefs, but about football. That has been your life, by and large, since you were 16? And when you stop, someone made this really good point about one thing that makes like high school football unique. There's pickup basketball games everywhere. People go play tennis and pickleball for fun. You can get a few folks together and even go to a baseball field and toss it around. You can at least play catch.
Beer league softball, the whole thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's beer league softball. There's all this stuff.
So your hamstring falls off.
When you stop playing football, odds are you've played your last game of football ever. And that was someone had mentioned that to me, talking about like high school athletes, like why that's an emotional thing, because it is the end of something that meant so much to you. And I think that's going to be especially true. That said, I hope he makes up his mind like early March.
This absolute vulture. Get him out of here. Nate, let's talk about the one thing that we haven't really discussed at all from the actual Super Bowl. And you and I are going to talk about it for 8.5 minutes, and then the show's going to end unceremoniously before that absolute scrub in the middle gets another chance to ruin our perfect podcast.
But I
need it. With his hateful rhetoric. Speed it up, Trav. You know what? Come back and take a pay cut and we'll talk. I'm Seth Keysor. Blah, blah, blah. Do it for $12 a year. We haven't talked about the defense at all. And understandably, I mean, like it bubbled up a little bit on Tuesday's show, and 40 points, we must, as a society, we must remember the context of this football game during Steve Spagnuolo's like Hall of Fame balloting. Because this was not a 40-point performance from the Chiefs defense. We know that it was offensive meltdowns in the first half, all of that. And then as the game went on, you have your moments, all of those things. But we've been talking about the Chiefs defense for a week now. Where do we stand? What stood out to you even, Nate? You have the benefit of watching it all in real time. Obviously, there weren't a whole lot of consequential reps for the defense. The second half had very, very few of those, if any.
Right.
What stood out to you? What's been percolating on the defensive side from your view? And then Seth, I guess you can think about what you've done. You can think about what you've done. You can tell me what you'd be willing to trade Chris Jones for, and then you can answer. Now you're playing my game.
Here's what jumped out to me when I rewatched it, and I'll rewatch it again because we have no other football games, kids. Think about the energy, the attention to detail, the focus, and the mother bleeping tackling in the first 15 minutes of that game. Oh! You came into this game, if you're Steve Spagnuolo and you're the Chiefs, that man will not beat us. We will tackle him to the ground constantly. We will get you in 3rd and longs, 2nd and longs. We will do this. You will not beat us. It's 17-0 and it's over. It's just over. So,
and then after it's 17-0, they punted again, and then the Chiefs forced a punt. They forced a punt.
Yes. So think about it this way: Justin Reed, incredible last game, if that's his last game in a Chiefs uniform. Brian Cook had been starting to give up some leakage in the deep middle. Did a nice job, okay? You understood that, look, man, A.J. Brown's really good, but we got Trent McDuffie, and we're going to ride on that. We're gonna ride. We riding, and we dying with Trent McDuffie. Okay, we got killed. It happens. Okay. Oh, he just
A.J. Brown ripped his arms off and caught the football. That happens.
He just smushed him, and then, okay. Yeah. Well, I guess they're in field goal range. Like, there's nothing, like, the crazy thing is there's nothing wrong that I feel like is a bad decision that they made in terms of the game plan, in terms of the execution. The fact that these two teams tackled so mother bleeping well.
They did.
Oh my God. I mean, Nick Bolton, hey, you want to test me? You want to, obviously what we talked about earlier. Hey, you want to test me in the flats with Saquon Barkley? He going down, okay?
Yeah.
I want to interject with one tackling stat before Seth takes it, which is that both teams tackled very well, but one team did it a hell of a lot more. The Eagles had 48 tackles and the Chiefs had 76.
Ooh.
That's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
That's crazy, dude.
Well, no, go ahead, Nate. Finish up.
So the two things. Okay. They said we gonna ride and die with Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson. That is mostly what you should ask for as a Chiefs fan. These are our two best corners. If you beat them, God bless you. Now they blitzed Chamari Connor, and Jalen Watson didn't hold up. It happens. Great blitz pickup by Saquon Barkley. That's actually Saquon Barkley's best play of the entire game was him picking up blitzes. Crazy, because hey, if we blitz, you can't run the ball on us. And hey, you might not be able to use your receiving ability to also get us. So Steve Spagnuolo still did a lot of things. He still manipulated protection schemes. He still got Chris Jones to be effective at times. The pressure with 4 wasn't great. Tershawn Wharton played very good in the run game, though. Whew! I know a lot of people were saying, hey, why are you getting beat one-on-one deep? Ladies and gentlemen, that's Steve Spagnuolo.
You can't. Spags
literally
giveth and Spags taketh away.
Yeah,
that's just
literally
gonna
the game
happen.
plan. The game plan is make us beat us. I want you to beat us. And guess what? Jalen, AJ Brown, and Devontae Adams beat them. And you can put in Jahan Dotson as well. You can just sprinkle him in as well. So it happens, but it was going to be a 10-0 game at halftime. And it was all hell broke loose.
It was that shot play to Smith. The Chiefs were down 27-0.
To nothing.
Eagles get the ball at the Chiefs 46. And there's 2:40 left in the third. And they dialed up a really aggressive play in a spot where most of the time you wouldn't. They went for the dagger. Good for them. They executed it. Great throw. Here's one thing I just want to note. Even the 10-0. The only reason the Eagles scored on that their second drive was a god-awful penalty. They were stopped on third down.
By Trent McDuffie, who was like, well, what do I do? I'm in the air. I don't know if he has the ball.
Yeah, like what the crap was that was ridiculous. You've got these are their drives. Punt, touchdown, interception, field goal, punt.
With the touchdown drive extended by a ticky-tack penalty.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing as me saying that's the reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but it is how that drive went.
After that, it's 17-0. Yep. They forced a punt after they held them to a field goal, and Mahomes threw a pick six. Chiefs get the ball back, go 3 and out, and they forced a punt there to keep it 17-0. And Mahomes immediately threw another pick that gave the Eagles the ball on the 14-yard line, and that's how you get to 24-0.
Right. Now you could argue. Now one thing I could argue here is, okay, maybe Steve Spagnuolo should have been a little bit more aggressive down in the red zone. I mean, they were tackling Saquon. So what do you want? Like, right. you can't cover everything, which is obviously the point we're trying to make.
Yeah, they did the job. The turnovers were absolutely brutal. One was on Mahomes, one was on Joe Thuney.
Yep.
That's just really, really unfortunate. The defense, by and large, I thought the game plan was good. I thought they executed overall well. Even the shot plays that they gave up, like the Smith one being the most obvious, that doesn't go down that way if it's not 24-0.
Right.
Or 27-0. Good
right.
God.
Was that all?
Yeah. And so that I just can't put it. The one thing I would say, and I'll probably talk about it at some point, it was pretty clear the Chiefs weren't getting pressure with 4.
Yeah.
Unless Jones got it.
Yep. Which is a theme throughout far too much of this season.
Yes. And so now, again, the Spags edges give it, the Spag edges taketh away. So really, in terms of the defense, I would give them a solid, I'm dead serious, when you account for situationally and what they did to keep that game somewhat within reach. I give the defense a solid BB+. They did basically anything you could ask them to do. They didn't get any turnovers, but they got a pick.
They did. They got a game-saving pick
early
that immediately didn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
At that Brian Cook pick felt like, oh, Jalen Hurts just made the mistake. Well, in these two quarterbacks, you cannot be the quarterback who makes that kind of back-breaking play, and Jalen Hurts just did it. Well, you think Patrick Mahomes is going to throw a pick six and another one that's basically a pick? Oop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then that's the game.
Yep, and that's the game. And so I really don't like, even people talking about like needing to rework the defensive line. You know, Amena, who's a free agent, my assumption is he's going to test the market. But we'll see. Mm-hmm. Honestly, with the way the year has gone for him, he's been a good player. Generally speaking, good pass rushers get paid in the open market.
Yep.
So, but I mean, overall, the defense did a lot of things that I liked.
$8 million cap hit from Mike Dana next year, by the way.
Dana played pretty well too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, especially I mean, again, against the run, they knew exactly what to do, and they did it. They held the man to what, 57 yards on a million carries. It felt like, because obviously the game was going a certain direction. So they never gave up the real big run. I think Saquon's biggest run was 10 yards. 10 yards. I mean, nuts. So what people will obviously ask, and I don't have the answer, but I gotta tell you, watch the film of that defense be motivated, in tune, ready to go. We not giving you nothing easy. And the offense not matching that energy at any point in the first half. It's one of the most striking things I could see where it's like, wow, teammates are in tune. Teammates have good body language. Teammates know, hey, you did this for me. I did that for you. 2-yard stop. We did our job. Move on to the next play. Hey, I'm blitzing. You know what's up. We know what's up. Hey, if we get beat, we get beat. I will always wonder, too, what happens? And this is how bad the throw was. So Jalen gets rewarded. It's weird. It's like, I voted Jalen Hurts for the MVP. It could have gone either way. But again, Steve Spagnuolo asked the question.
You had a chance to vote for Cooper DeJean for Super Bowl MVP, and you didn't do it, you coward.
Steve Spagnuolo asked this man the questions, and Jalen Hurts, by and large, had the answers. Which, by the way, one of the best things Jalen Hurts did was actually scramble out of the pocket once he realized, hey, they're not going to spy me because they're devoted to Saquon Barkley. That's, again, played very well, deserved MVP. You could say maybe Josh Sweat. Tick for tack. Jalen Hurts' interception was so bad against the zone blitz that it forced Brian Cook out of bounds.
Yeah.
If Brian Cook is able to make that diving catch but stay in bounds and get up, there's no one around him.
Right. The subsequent pick six would have been like at the Eagles' 30-yard line instead of where it was.
And we know Brian Cook's really good at returning interceptions. We know this.
The old punt god would have like punted it into like the upper deck, hunting from the 35 or so.
How do you think his extra interview went? Hey, Matt, great season. By the way, stop kicking it so hard.
Touch. Like, what in the world is the matter with you?
Can you kick it higher? Can you kick it
like
not farther?
Like
higher.
Up in the air. Like what? I don't know. Whatever. But no, yeah. I can't wait to talk about other stuff.
Like who you want to replace Travis Kelce.
Right. You ready to get some Jared Wiley takes off?
I need him to be healthy and to look even taller. Maybe
I don't know.
To look even taller.
I don't know. I need him to come back with more tattoos, maybe, or like different
Wiley
hair
with the 21-year-old growth spurt.
Yeah,
the rarely seen 3 extra inches at 22.
I was really excited about him, and then we saw him play. Well, then we like kind of almost saw him play for a while, and then he got hurt, and he just, oh man, You guys think it's gonna be Justin Ross, Jared Wiley, little Tyquan Thornton? You guys know who your training camp crush is gonna be?
Hey man, my camp hero came through. Shout out to Nico Remigio, man. Shout out.
Hey, yeah, good for him.
He definitely had a better payoff than almost any player in that category.
Yes.
So that'll be good. Hey, look, year 4 for Sky Moore? Breakout season. Here we go. Let's call it here. And what we'll do on Tuesday, I've already got a couple of things.
You know who you can release for some salary cap space? I'm just saying.
He's healthy. Got back working for the Super Bowl. No, he's gonna be kick returner, punt returner number 1, wide receiver 3, and
yeah, me too, Seth. Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, Seth was just talking about how excited he was, talking about something else, and apparently, okay, I'll scratch it off my list. Guys don't want to talk about Sky Moore, I guess. Anyway, we'll talk about the left tackle thing a little bit more on Tuesday, and I may even drag us all the way back into a little bad faith quarterback GOAT debate. I've got all these stupid stats and all of this nonsense. I have the work already.
But do you have feelings and vibes? And more importantly, do you have the Celtics in your avatar on Twitter?
I do.
That's the only thing that makes you an expert to talk about this stuff.
I do. Yeah. No, I have very, very, very strong opinions about the Celtics and Bruins, and you should take my thoughts on this very seriously. No, it's off-season semi-evergreen stuff that will be inspired by the Super Bowl, but I think we can more or less tape up this box, shove it in the back of the closet, and hope we don't have to think about it for too much more time in the immediate future. So with that being said, we'll be back on Tuesday. Off-season schedule stays exactly the same as far as we're all scheduled out right now. I don't know if at some point we're all gonna maybe the 3 of us should go to Cancun together. We can leave our wives.
We really should.
Hey, you know what? We went through a hard season. Now it's our time to do Cancun on 3. But back on Tuesday as planned as ever. We'll talk to you then. Until next time, Nate. Get us out of here. What really feels like the official beginning of the off season. I think it starts when this show ends. So be the lighthouse we need right now.
Oh goodness. All right. So let me bum you out one more time.
Are you going to tell us that Tom Brady's team lost in the divisional round in 2005 and it really tarnished his freaking legacy? My God. How could you ever become the GOAT if you lose in the playoffs?
Let alone the Super Bowl.
Seth is so cataclysmically bad about the concept of a tease. It's jarring.
So let's pour one out one more time, guys. I left my house, and then I said, you know what? What am I doing? I gotta go back home before I go to the airport. I gotta go back home, and I gotta get these Ziploc bags.
No, Nate.
No, Nate.
It's not your fault.
So all I've seen on Instagram, dead ass, all I've seen on Instagram for the last, let's say 4 days now, is other people with green, white, and silver confetti. And guys, I'm sorry.
Nobody wanted that. I love you, Nate. Nobody wanted it. We forgive
did you. Bring some?
Yeah. Did you?
You want to mail it out? I'll take
anything
some.
Else? I had a beloved family dog that died when I was young. Do you want to bring me a picture of that, maybe?
What
else? What else? Let me think.
Hey,
when I was 19, I really got my heart broken by a gal. Maybe you could have her call me up and tell me why she dumped me, just so I could really understand. Any other great presents I thought if
they unzip, I get to unzip this backpack, which means I get to unzip these these Ziploc bags. And you know what? I came home Monday night, started to empty my bag. There's a laptop. Yeah, there's my binoculars. Oh yeah, nice. Got to keep my credential. Obviously as a keepsake. Hey, here's son. Here's some Super Bowl gloves brought to you by Wilson. And also, I guess I got to put these gallon-sized Ziploc bags back in the box.
2009, the Patriots lost in the wild card round.